Thanks for staying with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. As promised, we're going to be staying there in the northeastern portion of our country, talking about a major mayoral debate that is going to be happening later this evening. I want to put this up on your screen, a live vantage point that we have there in the Big Apple. And so we've been following the story since those primaries first happened earlier this summer. But New York City's mayoral candidates are expected to go head to head on some of the city's biggest issues tonight in their first debate. The race has since narrowed down to just three major candidates, a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent, all vying to convince New Yorkers that they are the best suited to lead the city forward. And to talk a lot more about what we are expecting to see in this mayoral debate this evening, I want to bring into the conversation with Politico New York journalist there, Jeff Coltin. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. We've spoken over the summer and now kind of catching up as we're ahead of this mayoral debate that's happening. First, want to get your thoughts on what we're expecting to see between our three major candidates before they take to the stage.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation here. We have Zohran Mamdani now as the front runner. I mean, every poll in the general election has shown him up by double digits. The most recent one up by 12 points over former Governor Andrew Cuomo. So the Democratic Socialist and the Democratic nominee, Mamdani, his goal is just going to be not make mistakes. Whereas Andrew Cuomo, I mean, he has been the favorite in every election he's been in for decades. This is a rare situation for him where now he's coming from behind. He's going to have to take some big swings against Mamdani to try to make up that difference. Meanwhile, Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa, he's just trying to stay relevant. He is trying to show that he is a serious alternative to these other two candidates. Mamdani, who's untested. A lot of people don't trust him because he's only 33 years old. He's a Democratic Socialist. And Andrew Cuomo, who is widely unpopular, resigned in disgrace just 4 years ago and is now trying to make a comeback.
And Jeff, I want to focus and stay here, right here with Sliwa for a second. Of course, we know that he's the one who's polling the least in this race, but of course, still having his message heard. In fact, we do know for folks at home who maybe not be familiar with New York politics, he's returning to this mayoral race after his 2021 defeat to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Curtis, though, has been very clear with what his messaging is, really tough on crime to bring back the Republicans to the forefront there in the city. I have to ask you, Jeff, what is that looking like in a city like New York? How does that message resonate with those current New Yorkers who, for years, we've always seen the Democratic Party really dominate for the most part there in the city?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Sliwa is trying to appeal across the aisle to Democrats and to independents because there simply are not enough Republican voters in New York City to win an election. However, yes, he is hammering down on crime. Sliwa he's the founder of the Guardian Angels, this anti-crime group. He has been known, popular across New York City for 50 years. He started this in the late 70s. So he is a well-known entity, and his entire identity is fighting crime. That did not work in 2021 because he was going up against Democratic Mayor Eric Adams, who was a former police officer. He ran on crime and he won on crime. This year, crime is down in New York City. People are still concerned, especially in certain higher crime neighborhoods, but it simply is not the story of the election this year in New York City. A lot more people are focused on, number one, affordability and cost of living, and number two, especially in New York City, standing up to Donald Trump and minimizing the harm of the federal government to New York City. So it's a much more difficult race for Sliwa, who is known as this anti-crime candidate, when that issue simply is not front and center the way it has been.
I'm glad you brought that up. And as you mentioned, even there, President Donald Trump, he's somehow become such a focal point in this race as well. Let's talk about Andrew Cuomo, because there have been conversations about how the two of them have even possibly had behind-the-scene conversations heading into this mayoral race. But we do know that after conceding defeat in the Democratic primary, the former New York governor, as you mentioned, he did step away from that position in disgrace, but he's officially qualified to run as an independent in this general election. He staged this late comeback that could ultimately reshape the race. I have to ask you, Jeff, how is Andrew Cuomo presenting himself to New Yorkers at this time? Again, they're used to seeing him on the Democratic ticket. On the independent side, is that really going to be making a difference as we look ahead to this first debate?
That's right. I mean, he was the face of Democratic politics in New York for decades. His father was also a Democratic governor for 12 years. He was the Democratic governor for 11 years before, again, he resigned in this sexual harassment scandal, also was dogged by concerns about how he managed nursing homes during COVID. But Cuomo is making a comeback, and he is saying, look, I am experienced. I am trusted. I did things as governor. I built rebuilt LaGuardia Airport. You know that you can trust me. Unlike Zohran Mamdani, who is younger, who is untested, who's only been in the state assembly for 5 years. So Cuomo's argument is basically, look, you may not like me, but you can trust me. And he's definitely appealing not just to Democrats, but also to Republicans and independents who fear a Mamdani mayoralty. Cuomo is saying, I am the safe alternative. Vote for me. Even if you don't like me, I can stop Mamdani.
I'm glad that you're mentioning just the differences between them. But as you said a bit earlier, really, it's been Mamdani who has been the conversation. That's the race has been focused on there in the Big Apple. And so, of course, just at 33 years old, Mamdani is standing out as a Democratic socialist. This is what he claims to be. So it's not like this is a label that others are putting on him. He is saying that he is a Democratic socialist. And so as a state assemblyman, Mamdani surged ahead on some progressive platform promises, including rent freezes, fare-free public transit, universal child care, and an unprecedented push for public housing expansion. When it comes to how things are looking there in the city, what does that look like? How has his message been resonating? You mentioned it, though. He's ahead in all the polls leading up to this first debate.
That's right. I mean, that message has really been exciting New Yorkers. He won comfortably in the Democratic primary. And right now, polls show that he is winning about 50%, just short of 50% support in the general election. Of course, we'll see what happens in November, but his message is resonating, especially when you pull on the issues. New Yorkers really like the idea of fare-free buses. They want free buses. They want rent-regulated apartments. They want a rent freeze. There are about 1 million rent-regulated apartments in New York out of the 8.5 million population. There's a lot of people that under a Mayor Mamdani are being promised that their rent will not go up. That is very appealing to them. And of course, the other candidates make arguments that this is maybe bad for the economy at whole, or it will cause other rents that are not in this regulated system to go up. But the point is that Mamdani's promises, he's been hammering them. He's been clear about what he's promising, and New Yorkers are liking it and buying it.
I want to mention something because you've talked about his age. I've mentioned it as well. He's 33 years old, and he's even speaking out now on his X account. He's received a lot of criticism for his age. He turns 34. He's got a big birthday coming up on Saturday. He did put something out in his X account alluding to that, sort of a gesture and joke there. Do you think that age is going to matter in this race as much as so far? I mean, so far with the polling, it seems like it's not affecting those New Yorkers who are going to be heading out to the polls.
Sure, it's been a small factor. I know talking to voters that some people, especially older New Yorkers, are really troubled by the fact that he's only 33 and that he simply doesn't have that much experience. In the assembly, he had a staff of, I think, 7 people, maybe even fewer than that. And now he's trying to be mayor where you have a staff of 300,000 people and you're leading a city of 8.5 million. So it would be a huge step up. That said, as much as some people are uncomfortable with his young age, he would be I believe, the second youngest mayor in history and the youngest in more than a century. While some people are uncomfortable with that, there are a lot of people who are eager and excited for change, for a millennial mayor, for something new. There's been so much talk about how the leaders of both parties, Republican and Democratic, are simply very old. Trump is the oldest president, I believe, we've had in history. We have the congressional leaders like Chuck Schumer is in his 70s. There's a lot of appetite for new change, younger leaders. And Mamdani is obviously presenting that not just with his age, but also with his entire demeanor and his talent on social media and his adeptness there. He really embodies the millennial politician, and a lot of people are liking that.
All right, and so since we alluded to it, wanted to put it up on the screen. This was a video that he had put out on social media saying in a very important announcement to the people of New York City that, again, was announcing his 34th birthday coming up at the end of this week. And so I have to ask you, Jeff, as we're talking about everything that we're seeing, when it really comes to this debate that is set to happen this evening, what strong suits do you see from each of the candidates that will allow their message to get passed? Do you expect anyone to really be the standout star from their demeanor? You talked about Mamdani and how he carries himself, but on the other side, we've seen that from Cuomo too, a sense of just stability that he might provide New Yorkers. Can you sort of look at what you are expecting to see once they're on the stage tonight, and what will help them each to succeed a bit more once they're under those bright lights?
I think it will be a fascinating debate, even for people that aren't New Yorkers, because of this cast of characters. I mean, Curtis Sliwa, as we mentioned, he has been a radio host and a TV pundit for decades. I mean, he is just an incredibly entertaining speaker. He is a professional at this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he stands out on stage, how he talks around the other candidates. Cuomo, like I said, very experienced, and we expect him to come out swinging. I mean, he's down double digits on Mamdani in the polls, so he needs to just hit a knockout blow. I expect him to be very aggressive. Cuomo is already known as an aggressive politician, an aggressive boss, and I expect him to really try and hammer Mamdani tonight. And Mamdani, I mean, he is widely known as just a generational political talent. Even the people that don't like him can admit that he is a very good communicator. However, I was a little underwhelmed at his debate performance during the primary election. He didn't live up to his potential, basically, that we've seen in live interviews or in videos. So maybe now that he has some experience, maybe he'll be a little more impressive. In fact, I think he did better in the second primary debate than he did in the first primary debate. But Mamdani doesn't need to wow. He simply needs to maintain his position. So I expect Mamdani to have a more low-key debate performance tonight and not try and wow New York City.
And Jeff, this isn't the only time we're going to be hearing from them on the debate stage. We do know, of course, even with our last presidential election that happened, debates can be a defining moment. That's what led to the former president, Joe Biden, stepping out of this race. And so our history with debates, even in recent times, has been interesting. This is the first, but the next one is also scheduled for Wednesday, October 22nd. Do you think that this short window of time between, it's just 1 week, could also help improve that? Or is this going to be a moment that we see either a major rise or major fall for those other candidates who, like you said, Mamdani just needs to sort of not make any mistakes if he wants to keep the lead?
That's right. It is possible. I mean, this is going to be one of the most watched moments of this entire general election, possibly the most watched moment. So it's high stakes for all the candidates. Again, it's even higher stakes for Cuomo and Sliwa, who are trying to make up a lot of ground on Mamdani in the polls. That said, it can be hard to break through the noise. I mean, these candidates are now well known. Everybody in New York knows Andrew Cuomo, knows Curtis Sliwa, and now knows Zohran Mamdani. So I guess I don't expect this to be a massive shift in the election. But then again, as you mentioned, with that Biden performance in the first primary, the first general election debate of the presidential election, anything could happen. I mean, we all have to watch and see if this could be a defining moment of the election.
Wait and see. That'll be the policy that we have here on Live Now from Fox. And then once again, New York City Politico reporter Jeff Coltin here to help us break down the very latest as it pertains to this race. And Jeff, I like how you positioned it during our conversation that even if you're not living there in New York City, this election, this race, just some of what we're seeing here could impact politics really all over our country. So it's certainly something that we'll continue to follow here on Live Now from Fox.
That's right. Thanks for having me.